Welcome to Craft Beer Story,
a podcast dedicated to educating the masses across the planet on what real beer is.
Hey guys, this is Mike of the Craft Beer Storm, also founder and brewer at Brewers Brewing Company in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Today we got a special guest. His name is Edgar Hernandez. He's the head brewer at Bad Lab Beer Company in Somersworth, New Hampshire, but he has a lot of history behind him, a lot of experience. He's brewed at a number of different breweries across the U.S. and in Mexico, actually, where he's from. So without further ado, let's get into the conversation. Hey, we're here with Edgar Hernandez. He's the brewer at Bad Lab Beer Company in Somersworth, New Hampshire. How you doing, Edgar?
Hey, Mike. Good. How's everything on your side?
Yeah, pretty good. I thanks for taking the time out. I know you're a busy guy to come on the Craft Beer Storm, but I think you have a lot of experience, and I wanted to talk to you about where you came from and where you are and what your visions are for craft beer. But maybe we'll start out with your story and how you got started. Maybe talk about the brewery you're at now and all that good stuff.
Sure. Actually, it all started before I was even legal to drink beers. I would steal beers out of my dad, like here and there. I'm the youngest one of three, and my dad would just like give me a sip here and there. My brothers actually showed me how to drink better quality beer and everything.
Where are you from originally?
I was born in Mexico City.
Oh wow, okay.
So over there, the legal age is 18. So when I was like 16 or something like that, my dad would actually like pass me like half a beer or something like that here and there. I finished my bachelor in science on biotechnology engineer, and after that, I like as any kid, I got lost, and I was like trying to figure out what to do with my life. Right. And something that my dad said that stuck on me was look for the thing to be happy in life. Look for the thing that you're willing to pay to do, and look for the idiot that pays you to do it. So I was just like, well, I like drinking beer. I don't know that someone can actually pay me to drink beer. Right. So after a little bit of research, I found out that there was a craft brewing movement back in Mexico. That was, I want to say, about 12 years ago. It all started over there. I got into the movement about 8 years ago, and it all started with small craft breweries, just like here, like 20 years ago. It all started with Minerva, Cucapa, which are basically the Sierra Nevada or the Chutes or the Goose Island or the Samuel Adams, right?
Right.
So over there, I was looking for something to do something about it. I basically went to every brewery and started knocking, and I told them like, well, I got a bachelor in science and biotechnology engineer, and I don't want to be another customer. I actually want to help you guys out and everything. So actually, Minerva opened the doors for me. That was about 8 years ago, and it was basically I was trying to like help out and everything.
So where'd you land? Where was the brewery that you worked at?
So it was it's called Minerva, and it's in Guadalajara, Mexico.
Okay.
It's the place of tequila. So after that, they actually let me in and everything. They let me in, and I was just the assistant brewer. At the beginning, I was just breaking out, like pulling out the grain and everything. Right. That was fun. And slowly but surely, I knew everything. Like I knew how to brew. I knew how to transfer beers. I knew about this dissolution of CO2 in beer, like water in my case.
Right.
I knew about yeast. I knew about biology. I knew about biochemistry. I knew about enzymes and everything.
So now, did you do any home brewing before that, or anything before that, or you just
No,
jumped in? You just jumped into a
just
commercial
jumped
brewery.
in
That's awesome.
commercial brewery. Took me about 3 or 4 months to actually become one of the head brewer, and then after that, the brewmaster. He broke his knee, and I was basically both the head brewer and the brewmaster.
Okay.
For Minerva. After Minerva, I was looking to do something else. I was trying to get here on the States. So I started like knocking doors and everything. I got a job, like a couple of internships, and I got a couple of small jobs with the Brewers Association. I got a couple of internships with the Shoot and New Belgium.
Oh wow.
I even got to meet and brew with the brewmasters of Firestone Walker, Avery,
Really?
Boulevard.
Yikes! Those are heavy duty breweries. You got a lot of good experience behind you.
Exactly. So I got lucky, to be honest. It was just
Wow.
I was just lucky about it. After that, like I got a couple of doors open here. My first brewery here was in Michigan. It was a really small craft brewery called Tapestry, and that's in Michigan. It's in Richmond.
Okay.
After that, I don't know. I got lucky, and Goose Island was looking for me. They were looking for me in Mexico, and I was just like, well, I'm basically in Chicago. I'm like 40 minutes away from Chicago. They wanted to interview me and everything. I went over there, became the brewmaster for Mexico for Goose Island. But after a while, I mean, here Goose Island still feels crafty. Still, you get with your friends and everything. It's like there's more of a craft-like feeling to it.
So listen, so Goose Island, were you there when they? I mean, were they still independent, or did? I'm not sure who owns them now. Is it InBev or?
Yeah, InBev owns Goose Island now.
Yeah.
They bought it a couple of years ago.
Were you there when they bought it, or before that, or?
I was just after that.
After the purchase, okay. So
after the purchase.
Yeah, so it was still pretty independent, and then they came in, and they bought it out. All right. So I mean, what did you see after that purchase? Did things start to change, or I mean, what do you think? I mean, because their IPA is still good. I mean, I like their IPA. If I go somewhere and I have Goose Island, it's pretty good.
Yeah. No. Well, the thing is, I wasn't there before the purchase, so when I got in there, it was already after the purchase.
Okay.
So for me, there was like no change in everything, but
Okay.
it actually felt a lot like a craft brewery. Like you would hang out with the people, relaxed environment, everyone having fun, everyone like liking the job. It wasn't that corporate.
Right.
My problem was when I went back to Mexico. InBev is basically run by people from Modelo over there,
Oh.
and Modelo is more like Coca-Cola. It's just like Coke and Pepsi. It's just like black or white. If you're not with us, you're against us. So that's when it hit me. It's like, well, this is not the kind of environment I want.
Really?
My friends are all the brewmasters or the brewers or the owners for the craft breweries over there in Mexico, and my boss was like trying to stomp on them or like take away like tap handles from them or like push them out, and I was just like, no, I don't like that. Like I want to help them out. So
Oh.
for me, that was it. And after that, I just actually got a job here in New Hampshire in Bad Lab. I've been here for over a year. Actually, I just turned a year 2 days ago.
Yeah, I remember I met you. Was it a year ago? I think you just landed or something. Now, how'd you get involved with? I mean, how did you get the opportunity here at Bad Labs? I mean, we're in New Hampshire and you're in Mexico. So what happened?
Well, I was just looking for an opportunity to come back to the States. I mean, I love the States. I love in here, the industry is it's like a family. It's more, you come in and you hang out with your friends and your family and you're like having fun, but you're still working. And at the end, the environment here is way better.
It's like a passion. That's what I see with people, just hanging out with people. Like I hang out with you sometimes. I came up to Bad Lab and had your beer there. And, I'm having the beer. I'm like, oh, this beer is good. And then, and then you walked out. And I'm like, ah, there you go.
Yeah,
It's Edgar.
yeah, exactly.
Edgar's
So
here. So you have a lot of experience behind you. But yeah, all right. Well, that's a great opportunity, but like I said, I met you. I think you came in. I don't know if you just landed, but you saw a sign in Portsmouth. You saw a brewery. Like what is that? Because I think you lived right across the street.
yeah, I moved across the street and everything. I was just, like looking for something to do, and I saw Barra, and I was like, oh, this looks cool and everything, and I just went in and started like talking to you. You were like super cool and gave us I think it was like me and two other guys were like over there drinking, and you showed us the place, and you showed us the vessels and like your beers and everything. Like that's the reason I love the craft beer industry. It's just a matter of family just hanging out and like taking care of each other.
Yeah, it's a great environment, and that's what turned me on about this industry too. Like I said, well, I'm a CPA, I do audit, but I'm trying to, do the brewing full time. We have the brewery, but the brewing industry, everybody's really helpful and they're just chilled out. Come on in, have a beer. This is what I do for this beer. Very, no secrets. We trade grain if someone's in trouble, they need bottles or something or cans, and call somebody up and grab them or yeast or. So it's a great
Yeah,
environment where everybody's collaborative.
yeah, exactly. A couple of times I didn't have enough grain. I went to Stone Face. They lent me a couple of sacks of
Yeah.
grain when I ordered my grain. I repaid them back. About a week ago, I was in trouble. I was like looking for my pH meter broke, and I was like doing in the middle of doing some tests. And I called when they called from Garrison City. I was like, "Can I borrow your pH meter?" And she's like, "Well, I'm in the middle of a brew, but sure." And I'm like, "Well, you don't have to. You don't really have to like lend it to me if you don't want to." And I'm like, "Well, this is like I'll get it done in like 2 minutes." So she just grabbed it, took her readings right there, and that was it. She like give it to me, and I was like super happy about it.
Yeah, they're great breweries. Stoneface and Garrison City, great people there. Stoneface
Yeah,
saved my butt a lot of times. I needed cans. Like we got cans and I bought them from somebody else who had ordered a tractor trailer full, and it ended up that we started filling the cans and it had this pinhole on the bottom, and the beer was flying out. The bottom. I'm like, what's going on? And it was there was a stamp on the bottom. They stamp it with a number,
yeah,
and on the stamp there was a burr. So that burp created a pinhole on the bottom of like half of the cans that I bought. I'm like, oh man. And I was all set up or ready to can. So I call Stoneface like frantically. I'm like, you guys got extra cans? They're like, yeah, come on over. So they gave me about 10 cases of cans and we got that. But they've saved me a lot of times and a lot of them. But those guys are great. I got to get them on the podcast too. But yeah,
yeah.
it's a great environment.
Exactly. That's the reason I like it here because it. I mean, even though like there's days that I've worked like 20-hour shifts, and at the end I feel accomplished. I don't feel beaten up. I don't feel like I don't want to just go to my place and hang because I was 20 hours in an office. I stayed because I wanted to. I stayed because I wanted to feel proud of myself and
Yeah,
my product, and that's just how it goes. Like
that's
in the craft beer industry.
That's what it is. You make something, you create something, and then people try it and they like it. So that just keeps you going. It's fuel. I
Exactly.
do the audit stuff, and they're like, when are you leaving? I'm like, I just got here. What do you mean? I'm doing it just to make some money to pay the bills, but we're trying to get into the brewing. But when I make beer and people, they try it, they love it. So that's kind of my passion, like yours, and just make good stuff for people, local products, which I mean, we don't put crap in our beer. You don't do that either, and your beer is delicious. So it's a great thing. So
Exactly.
yeah, so how do you view the craft beer industry now and local craft beer? What do you see as happening? Like kinds of styles people. I mean, IPAs are always number one, but what do you see happening, especially in your place in Bad Labs? Um, What are people gravitating towards? Like what kind of styles?
Well, uh, for example, I'm a hophead, so I obviously love like hoppy beers and like whatever has hops in there. I just love it. And people, they're kind of like that all the time because they're like super into whatever they can find about like new hop varieties or like, oh, this one has a double dry hop of Galaxy or Mosaic or those kind of things. And they're like super into it. So at the end, it's more, I feel it's more like people are still in love with hops, but they're just looking different ways to experiment with them. So like
There's a bunch of
get a
different
feeling.
hops. Yeah, there's many varieties of hop. So from one hop to the next, it could give it another taste. And I think a lot more people are gravitating towards the craft beer, and the mainstream beers are kind of watery and they don't really taste like craft beer. But when people
Yeah,
start to
exactly.
get into craft beer, there's a new wave of people, and they're like, "Oh, I love this IPAs. It's awesome." So I think the IPAs are going to be strong for years to come. There's just going to be more people
Exactly.
being turned on. So, but we love IPA. I love IPAs too. I mean, double IPAs, and we use Galaxy, which is an awesome hop from Australia, and then we also make another double IPA with the West Coast hop blend, and that's delicious too. So, yeah, I love IPAs. But we also did you did Stout Month. When was it?
Yeah, we
Earlier this year, which is awesome.
yeah we actually had you as one of our guests. We had I don't know, I think it was like over 60 different kegs of different breweries.
Right.
So what we did is like we have 16 taps on the restaurant side. We here in Bad Lab we have our own brewers, but we usually have some from time to time. We have guest apps, and that month, what that month was just crazy because it was just dark beers and porters and stouts, like all these dark beers.
Right.
But we had like a bunch of different guests. You were one of them. Smutty Nose, Allagash. I don't know, like I cannot even name half of them because
Yeah.
there are like so many. Moat Fountain, Garrison City,
Yeah.
like all these breweries. They just like brought a couple of blocks, even Throwback. And
Yeah.
those are just to name a couple of. Because at the end, it was just like there was so many beer. There was so much beer. And there was so much variety that everyone was like into it. Because February is like super cold around here.
Right.
So everyone's trying to drink like a dark beer, a porter, or a stout,
Right.
or something like that. And all of a sudden, they're like into. We were like, well, sure, let's rush like a lot of stouts in here, but still, let's just bring some of our friends, guests.
Yeah. No, that was great. I mean, that's what we're trying to push the darker beers too, because there's like over 200 styles. If you look at the Brewers Association, and there is darker beer, and people get scared about dark beer. They're like, "Oh my God, it's heavy. I'm not gonna like it." I'm like, "Try it. It's good." We make
Yeah,
porters, and it's good beer. The stouts we make and other people are making really excellent beer, and darker beer is good. It's good. So we're trying to push that as well. Um,
exactly.
and what do you see about challenges for brewers today? Are there any challenges you see, like running a brewery or being an actual brewer, and competition? And I mean, what do you see?
There's there's actually quite a bunch of challenges lately. Um, the main challenge right now is there's a lot of people that think that craft brewery is on decline, which is not. Um, it's still growing. They just released the numbers for the first half of this year, and the craft beer industry grew by 5%, which is still a lot. But most of the breweries are going into, I like to call them like zip code breweries. They're more like breweries, your local brewery. You go to you don't want to travel more than 10 miles to a brewery. You just want to have one in your town. You want to have one as your neighbor. You want to have one that you can just go and like when you're coming back from work, stop by and grab a six bag and just go home.
Yeah.
The thing is that there's so many breweries popping out that these breweries are not going to last too long if they don't have first of all quality, second of all innovation. Those are the main things the brewers are struggling right now with. Because quality is really difficult to have it if you don't fully understand the brewing process.
Right.
And innovation is you're trying to think of something, like you're trying to think of a way to bring new things. But there's a limited amount of things that you can sometimes think. Like right now, all the beers that are being drank here in New England, they're more like a juicy IPA or like milkshake or ice cream or those kind of things. And
I
like
know.
people are looking into milkshakes and ice creams and all of that for inspiration for beers. I call them like cupcake beers. They have like cheesecake, and they have like I don't know, vanilla pecan pie porter or something like that. So they taste, for me, they're more like cupcakes.
Right.
But for me, you kind of lose the purpose of the beer. I like my beer to taste like beer with a side of
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
instead of munching a cupcake and just like not tasting like beer.
Now
I
we're guilty of that too. We infuse like the Oreo double stuff, like 20 pounds of Oreo double stuff into the porter, but people like it, and we throw ice cream in it too, so it's like a beer float, But people
Yeah,
love it. I don't know, people love it, so whatever, And it also gets them drinking darker beer, which is my goal. So I mission accomplished. But you're right.
exactly.
If you get
At
too
the
far
end,
away from the stand, I mean, it's cool to do a couple of those, but if you get too far away from the traditional standard, I mean, Germans would kill me. They'd probably hang me if they saw, because it gets away from the
exactly.
German, the purity law, right? It's only like hops and yeast and barley, and that's it, man. Water, that's it.
Exactly. For me, it's just a balance. You can have one or two like those kind of beers.
Yeah.
I don't mind, and it's good to have options. It's kind of like having a cider on the side, or like right now we have our double IPA blood orange. Most people are like, "Oh my God, this doesn't. I love this because this doesn't taste like beer, and it tastes like juice." And I'm like, "Well, it's supposed to be beer." I'm glad that you liked it. I'm glad that everyone liked it, but it's supposed to be beer. And when I try to dial it down a little bit, the blood orange, people were like, "No, it's not juicy enough." And I'm like, okay. I'm not gonna move. I'm not gonna make anything fit.
You got to give the people what they want. If they want the the
Exactly.
cloudy,
And
I mean, you can't, I mean, if a lot of people are coming in looking for that stuff, you got to make it, but also it's an educational process for them as well, trying to get them to
exactly,
understand what real beer is and how we make this beer, and why it tastes that way. It's not quite,
at,
yeah.
at the end, that's something that working for the man showed me. While I was working for ABI, it was just a matter of it's either you brew what people want to drink, what sells, or you want to brew whatever you want to drink. And there's always has to be a balance in between both. I always want to brew whatever I like to brew, like whatever I like to drink, but always you have to like make whatever people are going to buy.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're a business, and that's a lot of I don't know, a lot of these smaller breweries that come online. They're like, yeah, it's cool. We're gonna make beer and hang out. I'm like, dude, you're a business. You have to look at cash coming in, and cash flow is huge. I mean, just keep money coming in and give people what they want. And you can make your beers and interesting styles and experiment. That's cool, but you got to remember it's a business. But there is we're just trying to get people to drink local, use local products. And do you use any local products in your beer?
Yeah, we got well, some of the grains we actually source it from Maine.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get some like wild yeast around here. In the restaurant, we actually use a lot of like local things. Cheese some of the dairy products are for locals. Some of the meats from the charcuterie board, they're local. Seafood is actually local, so like we try to make it as local as possible. We also like give the spent grain to a farmer. The farmer feeds some cattle, and from time to time we actually buy a couple of cattle heads out of him, and then we butcher it and then we serve it here. So it's more like a round circle around it.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you have a good restaurant there, so you serve food, which is great with beer. Um, yeah. Are you guys a brew pub, or I mean, do you do alcohol too, or you just do beer and food, or how's it work?
We're a brew pub, but we have a full license, a liquor license. So
Oh,
we
you do.
have
Okay.
liquor and whiskeys and
Okay.
everything in here.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a very nice place. I went into your building. It's beautiful. You know, the glass and the mirrors and just very nice, spacious place. If anybody's around, should check it out. Definitely. Um, and what do you think about big beer as opposed to craft beer? Because you made the comment about people saying that craft brews beer, you know, small breweries are going to go away. They're not going away. It's kind of trending. Everything is trending local, and you've seen a lot of companies lately. A lot of the bigger breweries like Green Flash got into a lot of trouble. They have excellent beer, and they went, U.S. wide. I mean, they wanted to be in every state, and then you hear that they're pulling out of 33 states. I'm like, oh boy. And then, they had a new facility in Virginia Beach, and then they closed that. I'm like, oh man. And then, a week later, they got taken over by some VCs. And, a lot of breweries are pulling out of the state as well, out of New Hampshire. Firestone Walker pulled out. They're not selling
Yeah,
anymore. Yeah. So, and there's other, so that everybody's contracting. They're going back to their roots. And I think a lot of people are looking at local and, you know, going to their local breweries and, they don't need to have that national beer. It's, they have a really good beer locally, which is great. And we're trying to push
yeah,
that in restaurants too. It's trying to make people go, if you don't have a local beer in your restaurant, like hyper local, it's like you got to call the manager and say, hey, what's happening here? We have great breweries all around you, and you're not serving it. That's not right.
yeah, exactly. Everything right now feels like either going back to the roots or like going local. That's what like I was saying. It's like what people are looking for. They want like their local brewery just so they can just like drive by and get a six pack and just drive back home or something like that.
Yeah.
Uh, the thing is that most big breweries are your kind of go-to beer in a barbecue,
Right.
but you always want to bring that's your big guns. For example, you don't go into a barbecue with I don't know, a 24 pack of Treehouse, for example,
Yeah.
because that's difficult to get, difficult
It's very expensive
to
too.
it's very expensive. So you usually go and like buy a couple of I don't know, Goose IPA. For example, I love Solid Gold from Founders.
Okay.
That's a really nice beer,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. You go and like buy a 24 pack out of that one, and then all of a sudden you're like, sure, I'll bring a 24 pack out of this one, and then I'll just grab a couple of bottles out of a hyper local brewery. And that's what people are doing right now. They just want to share some of that, but it's still people are not buying enough big breweries kind of thing like regular beers. So since they're not buying enough, like we see all these big breweries going down slowly and having trouble to actually grow. So we got Smutty Nose, we got Green Flash, we got even New Belgium just pulled out. They're having some problems, and they actually had to let go a couple of employees over
Oh
there.
yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, they're contracting. They're great people. I went to whenever I go to the GABF out in Denver, they have like buses and they shuttle us up to New Belgium, and then they just feed us and give us beer. It's awesome.
Yeah,
But they
exactly.
have a great culture there. Like the people are just they love the brewery and they love the environment and they love the beer and it's awesome. Yeah, I know because they were, yeah, they didn't want to go out east. When I was talking to them, like we don't really need to go out. We have a great, we're kind of like in the Denver area, the Colorado, and radiating out, but we're not in the East Coast. And then they finally came out to the East Coast, and now they're pulling back. So I think that's
Exactly.
that's that's like the trend that's happening. A lot of these breweries are just pulling back, and because everybody's looking for local. and I think that's what it is. And you mentioned that was one of the questions I was going to ask you, but you mentioned one of the beers that you liked before. Is there any other beers that like? What's your favorite style, if you have one, or one of the beers that you've had in the past that you're like, oh man, that was awesome, and any beers today that are out there that you like?
Uh, it all depends on the mood. I got a bunch of like sour beers cellaring in my cellar. I got a bunch of like imperial stouts. I got a lot of Goose Island, Bourbon County, but for example, I love the Shoot the Abyss. That beer is amazing.
Yeah.
And for example, they actually did a really interesting beer a couple of, what was it, like 2 years ago, I think so.
Right.
They're gonna release it again. It's called Black Butte to the Third Power, and it's Black Butte distilled. They made whiskey out of the beer, aged it in barrels. Then they pulled the whiskey out. They brewed a double Black Butte porter, and they aged it on the barrels that had the whiskey of the Black Butte before.
Oh man.
And it's just like amazing.
Oh my
It's just
God.
a really crazy. That for me, that's my favorite beer ever.
Actually,
And
yeah.
one day I was like super drunk in JBF, and I lost a bottle of that. Like
Oh no.
one of the guys from the shoots was kind enough to give it to me, and I got super drunk and I forgot it somewhere.
Oh,
And
my
I'm
God.
like, no, it's like, I swear to God, it's been like 2 or 3 years, and I'm still like,
You're still kicking yourself.
I'm suffering because I lost it.
Yeah, I was down in Virginia recently, a couple of weekends ago, just checking out what's going on down there. They had the shoots. I was in Roanoke. Actually, they had a store there. They were just it was kind of a tap room, but all the beers were delicious. It's like, man, and they're planning to move in. They're planning to open a facility actually in Roanoke in Virginia.
Yeah,
I think they postponed it a little bit, but they're still. I mean, I think they bought the land, so they're ready to go. But the beer that I had, I was very impressed with their beer.
yeah. I
That's
mean, the shoots for me, it's always just a feel of like a really amazing beer.
really
I
good
love
beer.
I love their brand. I love their beers. I love everything about them.
I agree. I agree. All right, so yeah, I mean, yeah. Is there anything else you want to tell everybody? I mean, how can they find you if they want to talk to you, or maybe get some advice, or come on in and see you guys? I mean, how can they connect with you?
Sure. I mean, I'm actually also running a podcast right now. It's a really fun podcast, but it's actually in Spanish. So it's
Oh,
more about brewing and everything. It's called Entre Cervezas, In Between Beers.
that's
And
awesome.
it's from the Brewing Network. And you can just email me at Edgar at entrecervezas dot com. And sure, if you just go to the Brewing Network like webpage, you can see that's one of the shows on it.
Awesome. And you're at Bad Labs now. You're the brewer there
Yeah,
in Somersworth, New
you
Hampshire. Yeah.
you exactly. You can always just come over here. If you come to the brewery, or the brew pub, you can just always ask about ask for me, and if I have a couple minutes, I'll just show you around. It shouldn't be any problem.
Cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you being on the podcast. You have a lot of great experience behind you. You're doing a lot of good things. Your beer is awesome, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate you for coming on. And just keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome.
Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate also what you're doing, and keep it up.
All right, man. Okay. Thanks very much.
Thanks, bye.
Yeah, that was Edgar Hernandez of the brewer at Bad Lab Beer Company in Somersworth, New Hampshire. He, as you can see, he had a lot of experience. Firestone Walker, Goose Island, man, awesome stuff. And he knows a lot about beer, very technical, and he makes great beer. So if you're in the area, it's Bad Lab Beer Company in Somersworth, New Hampshire. stop in. He said, he offered you the tour, so go on in and go take advantage of that. So he's a good guy, really good guy. I like him. And if you like what you're hearing, if you like the podcast, subscribe, leave us a review and a rating. That'd be awesome on iTunes. We're on Stitcher now as well. And tell a friend about us. We want to try to communicate to everybody that there is an alternative to mass-produced, watered-down beer, and that's local craft beer. And we're trying to push the local. There's a lot of local farmers, a lot of local businesses that need your support, and that's what we're striving for. And we want to get the message out there and create a wave, a storm that sweeps across the planet. So until next time, guys, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.